I also think about that in terms of it's funny. I think maybe this is just me as a kind of I'm a very I mean I'm literally talking about being a mom in the context of management, right? So these are I'm clearly someone who's very I feel very strongly and like I have a lot of emotions about management. And whenever I get a review, I remember the only one thing that I need to work on or the 10 things, depending on who's giving me that review. But every time I get a review and if my manager sends me my review, which by the way, as you get more senior, you get less and less of those too.
Yeah, you don't get one
Uh,
maybe in 2
so we
years.
got one. You're like, so do you plan to give me one? Okay, good. We're fine. I'm not getting fired. We're fine. I scroll down immediately to what my direct report said about me. That is the most, for me, the most important measure of my performance and my success is if I am helping those who work for me feel good about themselves, feel confident, and grow. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't, times when I've had to deliver really hard messages. I mean, I had a sales team of, 40 junior sellers. Like I've delivered a lot of hard messages in my time. But even those hard messages can be delivered in the context of seeing someone else's humanness and their skills. And there's always something that someone could be doing where they would, where they could improve and you can deliver that in a compassionate way or something other career they should be doing because they're just in the wrong place, right? And so anyway, that for me is always my biggest measure. I care that obviously I don't mean to if my boss is listening. I really care what I care that they think I'm doing a good job, to be clear. But I mostly measure myself on the impact that I'm having to those who work under me because I think that it's a very vulnerable place. It's a vulnerable relationship that you have with a manager. Having a strong relationship with your manager can make everything okay, even in the worst of environments, and having a poor relationship with your manager can make everything terrible, even in the
Changes
best of
everything.
environments. And so for me, the impact that I'm having on those who work for me is far and away the most important measure of my performance.
One day I'm going to work for you. I love
Great.
what you're saying. Last
I
piece
have to get more important for that to happen, Brian, but we'll get there. We'll work on that.
we're working the right way. Speaking of people that report into you, so for the people that are not in the room yet, especially when strategies being made, what behaviors help them get in the room to get invited to help shape the decisions? What should they be doing now?
Yeah. Well, first, I mean, this may sound reductive, but find a manager who brings you in the room. I see it as my job to find a reason to bring people into the room, even if it's to talk for 5 minutes or just to listen, because you can't imagine what those rooms are like and how fast the conversation moves and how much it's driven by the individual priorities of different leaders at any point in time, unless you're in those rooms. And so I see that as something I think about a lot, actually, when you start managing more senior people and you start promote people from a manager level to a director level to a senior director level. Usually that is no longer a decision that you as a leader can make. That is actually something that has to be like voted on by the executive team. And they're like, but how do I even get in front of those people? How do I even have the shots on goal to show them that I'm good at my job? And it's so important that you seek out a manager who sees it as their job to give you opportunities, to prepare you, and then give you opportunities to be in those rooms. So, maybe the most important thing that you do broadly is find a manager who is oriented this way, who cares about you and your development and your growth and is willing to put their neck on the line for you. But then I would say also, the other thing that gets you in those rooms is just trying to be the person who you see a problem and it's no one else's problem yet, but you decide to make it your problem. You're like, no one is raising their hand to say, this is my problem because I own it based on my job description. You want to be the person who's like, maybe not in my job description, but I know this is something that people care about and I'm going to go figure it out. And taking that attitude towards being the person who takes on those challenges and takes on those problems, that gives you so much goodwill with, not only your management team, but also that's going to give you opportunities to, get into rooms that you otherwise wouldn't naturally get into.
So you need to be in, aware of where you can jump into problems. You need to be able
Yes.
to raise your
Please
hand.
don't. Yes.
But
Yes.
something you said prior to all this, I think is really key. And I think a lot of us spend time wanting to go to the FANG companies or go to the hottest new AI or Figma, all these amazing companies, which is absolutely right. You want to get to the right companies because that sets you up for success. But I think you said something even more important, which I want everybody to take away. The manager, when you are the one
Everything.
thing that can set you up for success more than anything else. You are my 20th podcast, I believe, my 20th person. This is 20 actually.
But you wanted me to be the first or the second, right?
I did, I swear. And you know it. I reached out to you and it was November when I sent you that email or December. So you
I
know
was
it.
like, Brian,
I
I'm
have it.
pushing my kids in the swing set.
I have the timestamp. It's in there. I did. But if you really want to set yourself up, everybody's had the same thing. It's the mentor or the manager that looked after him. So if you're really trying to say, I want to make something happen in my career, you probably should, if you can, because you can't do this all the time, find that manager that does want to put you in those rooms, that does want to get you in those at bats. However, you can do that, I think you made that probably is the most impactful thing that I've had the opportunities to have some really good people. Okay.
Totally. Can I add one thing to that, Brian? Which is I have Figma's the coolest company I've ever worked on. To be clear, it's really cool. Everyone should come work for Figma. Big plus. It's awesome. But I have built a career at relatively boring companies. Like from the outside, that people might say, oh, that's kind of boring. I mean, Glassdoor is not, I loved it. And that was actually the best career experience I ever had. But I don't think anybody would say that that's like the coolest, hottest product in the world, for example. But I have exclusively followed people and not pursued companies. That is how I built my entire career. I thought the leader that I worked with at LinkedIn, I went back to work for him at NerdWallet. And then another leader who we had worked closely with at LinkedIn pulled me over to Glassdoor. And then another leader I'd worked closely with at LinkedIn pulled me over to Asana. And now, of course, I'm working for someone who I worked with at NerdWallet. And so that has never been my filter. And I think that is incredibly important, that the content of what you're working on matters so much less than the person you're doing it with. And so, yeah, sorry to add another element or another, like, keep talking there. But I think that is something that I can't stress highly enough for people, especially early in their career.
That's clutch. That's key. I know I'm going to clip this one, and this is going to be its own video because
Cool.
we have to emphasize that one. And I wish somebody would have told me because I was chasing the shiny company versus chasing being somewhere where I was wanted, needed, and somebody that was building me and helping me grow. That matters everything. Because if you don't have the right person, your confidence goes, and everything else can go out the door. Okay,
Yep, done.
Danielle, can you believe that we are at 58 minutes of this interview? We're at the very last minute, and it's already been an hour. So we're at the closing segment. We'll wrap this
Okay.
up, and we'll go back to the job and the kids. The 2 minute drill. We're going to close this thing out. So this is quick fire, quick question, quick answer, and we'll walk out of here. And this has been incredible. All right, first question: what's one skill every future leader should prioritize?
Really understanding how to use data to still signal from noise.
Data, data, data. A book, a thinker, or a podcast that's heavily shaped how you lead besides the Level Up podcast.
A book. It's funny. I have a firm policy of not reading workbooks out of hours. So all of my stuff is going to be about like professional or personal stuff. I mean, honestly, like quick plug actually for my friend's podcast that I was at the other day, Hard Fork on AI and like the future of AI and what that's going to mean for all of us. It's a really fun
Hard
listen.
fork.
Hard Fork.
Okay.
Really fun listen, but also, I think is really it's a great way for those of us who are trying to operate in this new world to try and make sense of it.
I'll be listening. I'll be checking that out. That's awesome. A quote or mental model that you revisit often.
I mean, I think the mental model actually, this is a quote that my mom said to me once, and I love it. She said, "Just because someone throws you a football doesn't mean you have to catch it." And what I take from that is that just because you are given feedback or something happens and someone has an opinion of you, you get to decide what that means for you, how much you take that in, what you do with it. And I think that goes a really long way to preserving, your own peace in the long run.
Mama, you're great. She's got to come over and teach me some stuff. Okay, I love that one. Two more. What's one big people or strategy goal you're excited about over the next year?
I'm really excited.